15. Let's get a look at your money here on Good Morning Quad Cities. For all of you chocolate lovers out there, you might have noticed the cost of your favorite chocolatey treats have been getting much more expensive. I heard Andrew, he said, preach. Well, with chocolate prices at an all-time high, many people have been forced to cut back on their spending. Easter, usually a big chocolate holiday, and while the total's still being counted this morning, the National Retail Federation is expecting consumer spending on chocolate and candy from this Easter holiday it's expected to have been declined by 6.3%. And we have financial advisor Mark Gravachewski joining us live this morning. Good morning, Mark. Starting off with some bad news with the price of chocolate.
I know almost everybody's little favorite kind of go-to treat to give you a little bit of a sugar buzz over the course of the workday.
Right. So why do you think chocolate is becoming more expensive?
Well, David, it all ties back, believe it or not, to the tiny little cocoa bean, often referred to as simply cocoa. And the main derivative of cocoa is, of course, chocolate, which we all love. Like many global commodities, whether it's corn or your soybeans, gold, silver, whatever, cocoa is bought and sold in the global marketplace. And on Tuesday, the price of cocoa reached an all-time record high of over $10,000 per metric ton. For perspective, just 12 months ago, its price was around $2,800 per metric ton. In the past 3 months alone, cocoa prices have risen nearly 140%. Now, the West African region produces about 80% of the world's cocoa supply, but that region over the past 12, 16 months has been hit hard by a combination of adverse weather and severe crop disease. And that's caused the worst cocoa supply shortage in over 60 years. And this has sent cocoa prices, along with those chocolate prices, soaring to record highs.
Okay, well, I think I'm not alone in wondering what this is. How much longer is this going to last?
I wish I had good news.
Where's your crystal ball, Mark?
Crystal ball is in the shop, especially the chocolate crystal
I hear that.
ball. Look, unfortunately, many experts, kind of expect this disruption to that global supply shortage, again, in West Africa, to continue at least for the rest of the year. So it kind of begs that big question. How does this leave consumers and chocolate lovers? Over the past 3 years, remember, food prices have already risen a cumulative 21%. So chocolate and candy manufacturers realize they have to be extremely sensitive in just how much they can raise prices. If they raise those prices too high, too fast, it may cause a sudden collapse in consumer spending. So they've tried to get, somewhat creative in how they're managing this crisis. They're promoting more of their non-chocolate candies. They've also started to reduce the amount of chocolate in many of their candies. For example, in a typical candy bar, the manufacturer may decide to use less of the higher cost chocolate and more of the lower cost, wafer or caramel or many of the other ingredients. And finally, like many other industries we're seeing around the economy, they're starting to use shrinkflation, which is they're reducing the size of the product while still charging the same price. But that said, chocolate prices are still expected to creep even higher throughout the course of 2024.
Well, you are just full of bad news this morning, Mark. Well, what are experts saying that we can do to minimize the impact?
Well, here's some optimistic news here. Experts really say it's about the chocolate content. Obviously, the more chocolate that's in a candy, the more likely the cost will go up. So if you really, really, really need to satisfy that sweet tooth, and I know there's a lot of us out there, they say that non-chocolate candies are your best option. But if you really have a hankering for some chocolate, experts say that it's white chocolate or milk chocolate will likely be your cheapest option. It's because that dark chocolate, David, has that highest concentration of cocoa and thus much more susceptible to these rising chocolate prices.
I might even still have some Halloween candy left over. I just have to find out where that went. I'm
Yeah,
sure I'll just dig that up. All right, thank you
Just
so
open
much.
up your desk. I'm sure you've got a big mound of it
Oh,
somewhere.
of course, always. Thank you so much, Mark. We'll see you again next Monday.
Good to see you again, David.
Here's a look at what's coming up.